You are sitting in your room at 3 a.m. The house is silent and the only light comes from the glow of your computer screen. You've gone down a rabbit hole. Deep in a forgotten corner of a subreddit, you find an image. It looks wrong. It feels dangerous. Your instinct tells you to close the tab, to look away, but you can't. You have to know. Is this real? And you aren't the only one asking that question. The internet is a graveyard of nightmares just like this, from glitchy photos in Japanese horror games that look like crime scenes, to desperate pleas for help carved into the earth itself. Usually, these mysteries stay in the dark, haunting us forever, but sometimes the internet decides to dig deeper. In this video, we are uncovering the times when random users turned into detectives to solve the unsolvable. We are going from viral hallucinations that fooled millions all the way to a single Reddit comment that actually caught a cold-blooded killer. Buckle up because the answers might be scarier than the mysteries. Let's start with something that might have literally haunted your dreams. In 2008, a website appeared out of nowhere with a simple black and white sketch of a man and a terrifying question. Have you dreamed of this man? It sounds like the start of a psychological horror movie, but for the internet, this was reality. Within a year, over 10,000 people from all over the world claimed they had seen this exact face in their nightmares. Posters started appearing in real cities and mass hysteria set in. People truly believed this was some sort of supernatural phenomenon connecting our subconscious minds. But the internet hates a mystery it can't solve. Users on 4chan, of all places, decided to dig into the website's backend. They performed a reverse IP lookup and found the site wasn't hosted by a paranormal entity, but by a guerrilla marketing company. It turns out the Dream Man wasn't a demon, he was just a drawing based on the creator's father. An Italian sociologist named Andrea Natella admitted the whole thing was a stunt. We all got played by a social experiment, and the only thing haunting us was the power of suggestion. But if a drawing can freak you out, this next one will make your skin crawl. If you spent any time on YouTube in the early 2000s, you probably stumbled upon a video titled, "I Feel Fantastic." It features a stiff, mannequin-like robot with wide, unblinking eyes staring into your soul while singing a distorted tune. It is the definition of the uncanny valley. The video was so disturbing that the internet convinced itself this was a confession. The popular theory was that the robot was built by a serial killer dressed in the clothes of his victims, and the shot of the random garden in the video, that was where the bodies were buried. For years, this was accepted as internet lore. That is, until 2020, when a writer named Yeezy Lit decided to do some actual digging. By scouring obscure Android enthusiast forums from way back in 2001, they found the original posts. The robot wasn't a trophy. Her name was Tara. She was built by an inventor named John Bergeron who just wanted to make a singing android for the entertainment industry. He spent about $2,000 building her as a prototype. So, no serial killer, no buried bodies, just a guy with a weird hobby and a robot that accidentally became the face of internet horror. But while these two mysteries turned out to be fake, the next one on our list is a glitch that looked a little too real. Video games are supposed to be escapism, right? But there is a specific niche of obscure Japanese horror games that don't just want to scare you, they want to traumatize you. Enter Yuta no Tatari. This mystery didn't start with a jump scare. It started with a glitch that felt way too specific to be an accident. In 2014, a user on the subreddit r/creepygaming stumbled upon something deep inside the game's code that shouldn't have been there. They discovered that if you followed a bizarre set of steps, like changing your computer system settings to Japanese and forcing your character to walk through 3 traditional torii gates, you would trigger a hidden timer. And when that timer hit 0, the game didn't just crash, it evolved. The screen would fill with scrambled, nonsensical text. The main character would start addressing you directly, and then, after 4 blinding white flashes, the game would freeze on a single, low-quality image. It showed a woman. Her face was mostly hidden in dark shadows, wrapped in something indistinguishable, and she was staring lifelessly into the camera. This didn't look like a 3D model or CGI. It looked like a photograph, a real photograph. Immediately, the internet panic set in. Users began to speculate that this was a snuff photo, an actual image of a human corpse hidden in the game files. It wouldn't be the first time. Obscure games like Hong Kong 97 had used real crime scene photos before. For 8 years, this theory held strong because reverse image searches turned up absolutely nothing. It felt like every time you played the game, you were witnessing a real unsolved crime. But in 2022, the internet detectives finally cracked the case, and the answer was almost anticlimactic. A Reddit user managed to track down the source. It wasn't a crime scene photo. It was a single frame from the trailer of a 2007 Japanese B-movie called Hair Extensions. That rotting corpse was just an actress in makeup staring blankly for a movie trailer. So we can all sleep easy knowing it wasn't a real body. But while this digital mystery turned out to be a movie prop, the next cry for help on our list wasn't found in a game. It was carved into the earth itself, and it was big enough to be seen from space. We've all spent time scrolling through Google Maps, looking at our own houses or weird landmarks. But in early 2025, the internet found something that looked like a scene straight out of a thriller movie. In a Union Pacific rail yard in Los Angeles, right near Dodger Stadium, satellite imagery picked up a message carved into the junk and debris. It wasn't a glitch. It was giant block letters made of pipes and wood spelling out one word: help. Nearby, there were other frantic words like federal and LAPD. The internet immediately panicked, and honestly, can you blame them? A secluded rail yard, a massive sign begging for police, it screamed human trafficking or forced labor. People were convinced that victims were trapped inside shipping containers, signaling to satellites as a last resort. It was a terrifying theory that spurred real-world action. The LAPD was flooded with calls, and internet sleuths demanded answers. But then, a social media user decided to go touch grass and investigate the site with a camera. What he found wasn't a criminal ring or a hostage situation. The rail yard was surrounded by homeless encampments, and the help sign was the work of a single homeless man. He had been building these massive messages for years. The LAPD confirmed that they knew him well and had offered him housing and mental health support multiple times, but he always refused. So, it was a cry for help, just not the kind the internet imagined. It wasn't a conspiracy. It was a harsh reality of the world we live in. But while this man was screaming for help in plain sight, our next story is about a man who didn't even know he was in danger until strangers on the internet saved his life. This next story isn't about a ghost or a glitch. It is a psychological thriller that happened in real time on Reddit, and it is arguably one of the most famous threads in internet history. On April 15, 2015, a user named R. Bradbury posted a strange plea for help. He lived alone, but he kept finding post-it notes on his desk that he didn't write. The first one was simple, just a list of chores. He brushed it off, thinking he might have written it half asleep. But then, they got aggressive. A few days later, he found a note stuck to the back of his chair that said, "Save your documents." The handwriting wasn't his. Terrified that someone was breaking into his apartment while he slept, Bradbury went full paranormal activity. He set up a webcam to record his desk overnight. But when he checked the computer the next morning, the video files were gone. Not empty, deleted. And then the notes escalated. He woke up to find the message that read, "Our landlord isn't letting me talk to you, but it's important we do." At this point, Bradbury was convinced his landlord was stalking him. He was finding blank post-it notes covering his doors and walls. He was losing his mind. He turned to the subreddit r/legal advice, asking if he could sue his landlord for breaking and entering. The comments were filled with people telling him to buy a gun or change the locks. But one user, a commenter named Cockerlock, saw something everyone else missed. Cockerlock noticed that Bradbury mentioned his bedroom was small and had no windows. He asked a single, chilling question. "Do you get bad headaches?" Bradbury admitted that he did. Cockerlock didn't suggest a lawyer. He suggested a carbon monoxide detector. You see, carbon monoxide is a silent killer. You can't smell it or see it. But if it builds up in a poorly ventilated room, it poisons your brain. It causes memory loss, confusion, and hallucinations. Bradbury took the advice. He bought a detector and plugged it in. Immediately, the alarm screamed. The levels of gas in his room were lethal. The intruder deleting files and writing notes, it was him. He was writing them in a fugue states caused by the poisoning and then instantly forgetting he had done it. The webcam didn't delete the files. His confused brain just never clicked save. That random Reddit comment didn't just solve a mystery, it literally saved a man from dying in his sleep. But while the internet saved Bradbury from an invisible gas, our final story is about a time when the internet caught a monster that was very, very real. This last story is the hardest to listen to because it involves a tragedy that is far too real. But it also proves that sometimes the most trivial digital footprint can catch a monster. On April 24th, 2022, in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, 10-year-old Lily Peters left her house to visit her aunt. It was a 3-minute bike ride she had done a million times. But that evening, she never came home. Her father retraced her path and found her bike abandoned in the woods. The next morning, her body was found nearby. Police were scrambling. They had a brutal crime scene, but no clear suspects and no witnesses. At least, they thought there were no witnesses. While the town was in shock, a post about Lily's disappearance popped up on the true crime subreddit. Amidst the speculation, one comment stood out like a beacon. A user going by HomesliceNation4 wrote that they had been on that exact trail that day playing Pokémon GO. They specifically remembered seeing Lily in her pink and purple hoodie, but she wasn't alone. She was walking with another kid. The user ended their comment with a chilling gut feeling. I have a suspicion that it could be another kid that did it. The post was deleted shortly after, but another Reddit user had already screenshotted it and sent it to the police tip line. That single digital crumb broke the case wide open. Within hours, police arrested Lily's 14-year-old cousin, Carson Petersberger. Confronted with the timeline, Carson confessed. He admitted that he had been planning to kill her for months. He lured her off the trail, attacked her, and then went home as if nothing had happened, later returning to move her body. Because of the sheer brutality and premeditation, prosecutors decided to try this 14-year-old as an adult. He is currently in custody waiting for his trial in 2026. It is terrifying to think that a game as innocent as Pokémon GO became the key to solving such a dark crime. So, whether it is debunking a viral ghost story or catching a killer, never underestimate the people behind the screens. The internet sees everything. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more mysteries solved, hit that subscribe button.